Welcome to Fluent and Chill. I'm Fluent. He's chill. And we got a lot to talk about today. How you doing, Jay?
In effect, man. In effect, football. This might be, Tone. This might be some of the best playoff football that I've ever seen.
I hope it continues because normally the first few rounds are and as we get further, right, we build up, and then the Super Bowl. A lot of times the Super Bowl is disappointing. Let's be honest, but this round is typically the good one. So far, we've had a lot of really good matchups, a lot of really fun games to watch. Something for everybody. We've had defensive games, we've had offensive games, right? So there's something for. I had someone say, "Oh, I really didn't like that Green Bay San Francisco game. It's so defensive." I like that. I like that. And then others said, "Hey, the Bills and Chiefs back and forth. You know, who's going to have the ball last is going to win," which is exactly what happened.
Kind of like what you expect, though. You expect certain teams to win, so it's really a whole hum in a wild card and then in the divisional. It might be a good game, but it's who you expect to win. Only except this has been completely different. The teams that we expected to win haven't won. So I mean,
both number one seeds are out, and that's
out.
been I think like 10 years since that's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is awesome, man. This is really good.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna make our picks. We're also gonna do right after we make our picks. We're gonna do mail drop, where we take your questions. That's how we always end the show, is with your questions. We're gonna talk about all-star voting, NBA all-star voting, because I have a big issue with it. Want to obviously hear your take as well. But first, I've got a huge issue with it. Absolutely.
Got a big problem with this.
But first, I'm going to call on my good friend. I've never met him. My good friend, Elon Musk. Or maybe Branson. I think Branson has one too. And jump in their spaceship. And we're gonna go off planet for a minute because we forgot. We got busy. Our show ran long last week because we always want to do once a week. We promised you conspiracy. And last week on Wednesday's episode, so I'm going back a week and a half, I promised you that we would talk about how there never really was a man on the moon. I promised that. And we didn't deliver it on Wednesday. And I thought, no one will notice. You guys paid attention. You all noticed. So thank you for paying attention. Thank you for subscribing, setting your reminders. The fact that I got messages, plural, I thought you were talking about the man on the moon. Well, then let's do that. So as with all our conspiracies, I'm going to tell you kind of the for, the against, and then we'll have a nice little discussion. So the for is, well, we all saw it on TV. They put Neil Armstrong and those, Buzz Aldrin, and they put him into a spaceship and they shot him up to the moon, and they had one big step for man and a giant step for mankind, and they planted their flag. There you go. What more evidence do you need? You said you didn't believe Wilt's 100 because there was no video, Tone. There's a video.
There it is.
The against, however, and I'm only going to give you a couple of bullet points because I have more on top of this. I don't want to give it all away right at the beginning. The against is, well, it was done on, there was video. They did it on a soundstage. And they shot it on a soundstage. They didn't actually get to the moon. They couldn't get there anyways. And the big one I hear is, well, look at the way the flag. Every other shadow goes this way. Look at the shadow of the flag. It goes that way. Dun, dun, dun. That's what my 8-year-old does. She goes, dun, dun, dun.
Uh-oh.
So that's the case against, is that they believe they actually didn't get there. They filmed it, and because of the shadows. What say you? You're a historian. I know it's American history that you focused in, but I guess the moon landing is American history.
Well, the first problem that I have with that is they actually went to the moon again. So that means that we got to stage it again.
No, well, I think let's focus on the conspiracy. Is the first one was fake?
Okay.
Yeah, just let's do I've never heard about any other ones. Yeah, just the first one.
So we'll basically stick to the first one. All right. So the against would be, the moon is 248,000 miles away from the planet. Right. So it takes like 3 or 4 days to get there. So
unless you're Tariq Hill, you probably get there about 3.5.
I was thinking more like 2 days.
2 days.
I was thinking more like 2 days with him. So that's a long time. And it's a lot of planning to do something like that, right? And we have to get this right the first time. This isn't a do-over. So this isn't a situation where, we can get this wrong and then we'll try again. No.
You're not trying to throw a ping pong ball into a cup and be like, oh, I missed. Oh, I'll do it again.
No,
You can't do that. Can't do that.
We have to get this right the first time. So, but the 4, so I can appreciate the against, but the 4, I mean, why would we stage something like this? This is a huge deal. Not only is it a huge deal, it was all over the world. And it was a huge competition on who was going to get to the moon first, the Russians or the Americans. So there was a lot of planning that went into this. In fact, there was a movie that was made called Hidden Figures about black women who put the numbers together, there was a whole team.
Taji.
Yes,
she was Tarat Shah. She was good in that. She was good.
Absolutely. There was a whole movement behind putting this thing together to get to be the first ones to get to the moon. So the idea that this didn't happen or this is a conspiracy, no, I'm not buying it.
Okay. So it's interesting because you made my point for me. There was a race. There was a competition with the Russians, the Cold War. The first country that got there was going to be considered the dominant in space travel. And the first ones to get there, it would show their, like I said, their dominance in the world. Could the Americans allow the Russians to get there first? No. When they realized they couldn't get there, what did they do? They went to a soundstage and they filmed it. Because what happened right after that? The Russians kind of stopped. I don't want to say completely stopped trying, but it changed. Just think about this. If the Russians get there first, well, now they're beating their chests. The Cold War maybe goes in a different direction. The Americans had to do something. You've had now some people say who were involved in it it is true. We didn't actually get there that time. I brought up the shadows. How do you explain the shadows? Why are the shadows going in different directions? We all know, like, look at the light. The shadow goes this way. If you saw a shadow going that way, now I've got 2 lights. Maybe that's a little different. But if I were to turn off this light and just use this one, all the shadows should go this way. Like the sun, that's just the way it is.
Correct.
Now, someone will say, well, hold on. When I'm standing and I'm walking down the street, if the sun's, high noon, you might see shadows going in 2 different directions. Don't be a smart, what. So there's enough question marks and reasons for it that this is something that I think will continue. I don't think this is one that'll go away, because you ask certain people and people have said who were involved in it, no, we staged it. Other people said, no, I was there. I want to say it was Buzz Aldrin who maybe said it didn't actually happen. It was one of the guys on the show. I don't know if it's dementia or if it's trying to sell some books.
I think it was. I think it was just to needle at people, because there's no way.
You think it was like tongue in cheek?
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually stayed.
Yeah. I never got to the moon. That was all a lie. One of those.
No. Well, the fact that you mentioned, Tone, there's video evidence of this. Well, it was a sound stage. What kind of sound stage is going on in 1968? That looks like that. So I mean, I don't. Even though it was modern at the time, it takes a lot of planning.
Yeah, back then you still saw the strings holding up Superman when he was flying. So fair enough.
Give me a break, man.
Okay. So the 4 is, hey, we got video evidence. The against is, hey, there's people who've said it was fake. It was honest answers, and it was to beat the Russians. So the motive is there. Right. So now we're a judge and jury. Your vote is real or fake?
They went to the moon.
Mine, as always, is. No, I'm just kidding. This one, I'm with you. I think they landed on the moon. We're not going to agree on a lot of these conspiracies, but on this one, we do agree. Right. So if you have a conspiracy or you have thoughts on this one, please put them in the comments. Send them to us. We'd love to read about them and talk about them on our next show. We're going to recap. And every week, like I said, we do 3 shows, a Monday live on TikTok and then 2 YouTube shows. Each week we'll have 1 conspiracy. It might be sports. It might not. All right. So let's come back down to earth. Although I actually think maybe a lot of the people's heads are in the clouds when I say this. They might be astronauts, because all-star voting The starters are going to be announced on Thursday night. So as you're reading this, you probably already know who or as you're watching this, excuse me, or listening on Spotify exclusively, you probably already know who the starters are. But here's where we are with the latest voting. The third fan returns. Let's start with the West. We'll go to the East. Or should I tell you my problem with this first?
Let's get the players out of the way.
All right, let's get the players out of the way. So right now in the front court, your top 5 are LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, Andrew Wiggins, Paul George, Anthony Davis.
Okay.
The guards, Steph Curry, John Morant, Luka Doncic, Klay Thompson, Devin Booker. In the East, you have Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, Jimmy Butler. The guards, DeMar DeRozan, Trae Young, Zach LaVine, James Harden, LaMelo Ball. So those are the top 5. If you keep going down the list, there's some question marks. But here's my problem. How is Andrew Wiggins an all-star starter?
Well, number one, he's playing on. I actually, when I think about Andrew Wiggins, I think it's long overdue. We'll start there. The fact that he's been in the league for 8 years, and in the 8 years that he's been in the league, the number 1 overall pick in the draft, 0 all-star appearances, not one. And the fact that he's on a better team than when he was in Minnesota. He's in a bigger market, and he's playing better. He's actually playing a lot better than what he was when he was in Minnesota. Even though in Minnesota he was 20 a game, his game is completely different, and he's getting more notoriety. Because Tone, but you got to accept you got to.
Are you taking him over Cat, Gobert, Ayton
as a starter?
As a starter,
I'm not going to take him specifically, but the fans do. And Tone, you got to accept the fact that this is what this is about. This is about the fans.
Okay.
That's what the All-Star game or All-Star weekend was designed for. It was about the fans. What do you guys want?
Okay. I'm going to throw out some names to you. And these guys are all in the top 10 in their respective categories. Paul George, Anthony Davis, Carmelo Anthony, Klay Thompson, Russell Westbrook, Kyrie Irving. I'll stop there. You think any of those people are deserving, or is it just a popularity contest?
That's what the idea is, Tone.
It's a popular. So, yeah. But here's my thing. Here's my issue. So now this is perfect for me to. My issue is this: we use all-stars, not me, but people use all-stars as a level of kind of debate. They say, "Oh, well, he's been a 10-time all-star." But if being an all-star is just a popularity contest, then it has nothing to do with merit. The fact that Klay Thompson has played, 7 games, is averaging 14 points a game, he shouldn't be on here. Kyrie at the time when the first ballots came out, I don't think he even played 1 game. And now he only plays on the road. Right. Should he even be in this all-star conversation? Russell Westbrook, yeah, I'll give Westbrook. I'll say Westbrook is fine. But Carmelo Anthony? Should Carmelo Anthony be in the all-star conversation?
Now, I'll tell you what, Tone. All of those guys that you mentioned, think about the markets that they play in.
Oh, I know. Oh, I'm fully aware.
Because we don't hear about as good as De'Aaron Fox is playing. We don't hear about him being on the all-star ballot.
Not at all.
Right? We don't hear about Dejounte Murray being on the all-star ballot. We don't hear about Miles Bridges being on the all-star ballot.
Derrick Rose is on here.
Right. And a lot of that is popularity. I can appreciate that because it's for the fans. However, there is some merit to being an all-star. That's just for the starters. But you still got to get voted on. Like as a reserve, you get voted on by the coaches.
So let me ask you this. That's perfect. What I want to do is say, if you're going to give merit to this, like when you and I have a conversation and you say, we talk about this player and we say, he's a 3-time champion. He's a 10-time All-Star. He's been an all-defensive team. He's been all right. That's how we talk about when we're talking about their accolades. Mm-hmm. What if we change that narrative to he was a 5-time NBA? Now we can't go back and do it because we're changing the rules, but like I'm talking 20 years from now, he was a 10-time NBA starter. And what that means, because now it's going to mean something, is that's what the coaches and players vote on. And the fans get to vote in their reserves so they can see their favorite players. But the starters are picked based on merit by coaches and players and GMs, whoever.
Right. Now, with that being said, Tone, even today,
because would people watch less if the players and coaches and who GMs, let's say, pick the starters, would they watch less?
I think they would, Tone. And
really?
The reason why I think that they would is because you're involving me as a fan. Like I have an input that
you get all the reserves.
Right.
There's more reserves than starters.
But I can vote Grant Hill on as a starter. That's a big deal for me. I could vote Kobe Bryant in as a starter. I want to see Kobe Bryant. I want to see.
You will. He'll be a reserve.
No, I want to see Zach LaVine as a starter. Now, I will tell you this, Tone. The rules have been changed where I believe that fans have 25% of the vote in terms of starters, and I think the coaches. So it's not. It used to be primarily fans. Whoever it is that you guys want to see, that's who we're going to put on. And we had guys like.
Yeah, I remember back. Like I remember 1990. I want to say 6, maybe 5. BJ Armstrong, no offense, is an all-star starter. Was it 94? 94 all-star starter. Come on, they were just clicking off a Chicago Bulls guard because they were used to voting for Jordan for the past 10 years.
How about Magic starting in an all-star game? He didn't play the entire season. He didn't play the entire season, and he started in an all-star game. So I can appreciate the logic of them taking out some of the fan input, but we can't take out all of the fan input strictly because that's what All-Star Weekend is about.
I wasn't trying to take it all away.
Yes, you do, Tone. You want to completely, you have a problem with, not only do you have a problem with the All-Star starters, now.
No, I want to give them all the reserves. I'll let the fans vote them 100% in.
And now you want to question, okay, you're an All-Star, so you're an 8-time All-Star, but you got voted in by the fans, and wait a minute, so hang on for a second.
Yes.
That's what the All-Star Weekend is about. But
so we should stop using All-Stars as a level of measurement then. How many All-Star appearances?
No, because being an All-Star.
Because you just said Magic Johnson didn't even play and he was an All-Star. Well, so now we're adding in a year of him saying, oh, he was a 10-time All-Star. He didn't even play that season.
He didn't play that season. However, what we're talking about here is we're talking about All-Star Weekend being about the fans. But being an All-Star has some merit because I am voted on as one of the, not just voted on as a starter, I'm voted in with the coaches as a reserve. That means I'm one of the better players in the game. That's not to say that they just putting me on because, well, we got 12 guys and you got to make this roster. No.
Well, listen.
Andrew Wiggins, for example.
Should Andrew Wiggins be an all-star starter?
I don't know if he should be a starter.
Right. So if he's a reserve because he's in a big market and he's playing, he still gets the credit. They'll still say he was an all-star.
I got no problem with him being an all-star. I don't know about a starter, right? Just like I don't know that Klay Thompson should be.
Klay Thompson shouldn't be there. No, Klay Thompson shouldn't even be on the All-Star team because that's my point is because you're refusing to take it away from the conversation of great players. And you have guys like Klay who historically have been All-Stars, right? They're popular. He's popular. He's not playing at an All-Star level this year.
He's not playing at any level, Tony. Just got back in the lineup.
When we have debates and we say, well, LeBron James won a championship without having an all-star teammate. Hakeem Olajuwon and Michael Jordan have won 2 NBA championships without having any all-star teammates. Man, Scottie Pippen was still on that team. Clyde Drexler was still on that second Rockets team. Yes, LeBron still had, Kyrie and Kevin Love and whoever. Just because they weren't all-stars that season, what doesn't mean that they were gone completely. Now, in some cases they were, but you know what I'm saying? It's just like, I feel like we use it as a level of measurement, and I don't know that we should. So maybe that's my problem. Maybe that's my problem is that we use it as a level of measurement. Look, I love it. It's like therapy. This show is like therapy. I get to get it all out, and maybe I find my own path. Maybe we just take it out of the conversation because it's not really warranted in those debates.
No, Tone, because first of all, you have to be that's a part of your greatness. You have to be recognized as an all-star. Now, as an all-star starter, that's something completely different. like you just mentioned, we could say Andrew Wiggins is a 10-time All-Star starter, as opposed to Anthony Davis is an 8-time All-Star. Now, it's completely different because
but that doesn't hold any merit now because it was fan voted in certain cases, right? So you just have to say All-Star in general.
Right. And understand, Tone, that when you are an All-Star, I'm still the best of the best. Now, I don't hold being an All-Star as high as I hold being an All-League defender. I don't hold being an All-Star as high as I hold being an All-NBA performer. I don't hold it in that regard. But it does matter that you are an All-Star because I am the best of the best. Now, what I have to make sure that we mention, Tone, is we're talking about if you're a one-time All-Star or a two-time All-Star, I might scoff at that. But when you're doing it 7, 8, 9 years, that matters.
Okay, but interesting that you brought up all NBA teams, all defensive teams. Those are a crock too. Because those are voted. Yeah, they are, because they're voted by the media, and the media votes based on who they like. And historic, they give lifetime achievement awards. A player misses 55 games and still makes the all defensive team. How? You only play Scottie Pippen, 1997, 98, one of those years. Missed 55 games and he's an all. How do you play 27 games and you played that much better than everybody else defense those 27 games? That's a load. You know how else I know the media, no offense, is a load of crap. I almost cussed. You know how I know it's a load of crap? I will cuss. I'll say crap. So what? It's our show.
You can say crap. Mm-hmm.
Because Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Pete Rose aren't in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's how I know it's a load of crap.
I have no respect for the Baseball.
Well, these are the same, not the same guys. I get it, but
it's not
right?
the same.
And here's and now I'm going outside of. So I'm really hold on. I need to take a breath because now I'm going to get heated because the Pro Bowl, as another example, is also a crock because the two teams that are in the Super Bowl, which should have more Pro Bowlers than most other teams, right? Because they're in the Super Bowl. They don't play. So then now they got to bring in reserves. So now I get to say, I was a Pro Bowler. I don't say I was a Pro Bowl reserve because, because Patrick Mahomes was playing in the Super Bowl, so he wasn't at the Pro Bowl. So now I became a Pro Bowler. So that's why, like I say, it's for the fans. Put the players in the van. Just let's stop using it as a level of measurement of greatness. Unless, you know what, maybe I'll give in and say, unless to your point, okay, you're a 15-time All-Star. Fine.
The All-Star part I don't have a problem with it. I just don't hold it as high as I do things like being an all-league performer.
Okay, that's fair. Being an all-league defender. That's fair. I'm okay. Because here, and look, you're not totally wrong. Like, when I picked my West All-Stars, I said I would have James, Jokic, and Cat. Right. And so they've got James, Jokic, and Wiggins. Cat, I think at 8, I think it's a little low, to be honest. My guards were Steph and Ja, and they got Steph and Ja. So, and who did you had?
I had Curry and Paul.
Paul's at 7. I don't think people I've been a Paul kind of realist. I don't think people are giving Paul enough credit for what he's doing with that Phoenix team again this year. But
he got to be in the MVP conversation, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
We are. In the East, I had Durant, Giannis, and Embiid. They have the same 3. Maybe I'm proving my point wrong here.
You mentioned that. Hold on for a second, Tone, because KD is out. So who's going to replace KD?
Who's going to replace KD?
Who is going to replace KD?
Well, in voting, it would be Tatum. It would be, okay, here's the list below what's left. Tatum, Butler, Allen, Jared Allen, Pascal Siakam, Bam, Miles Bridges, LaMarcus Aldridge. LaMarcus Aldridge? He shouldn't be there.
No.
Who do you replace KD with?
Tatum.
Yeah, I think he's the best player. I'll give you that. Maybe Butler. Maybe Butler. I think maybe Butler.
Butler's on a better team.
Right. And that's part of it. That's part of it.
That's the difference right there. Butler's on a better team, but I think that Jason Tatum is more popular than Butler.
Yeah. Well, and that's why he's leading him in voting. So it probably will be him. And then the guards, I had DeMar and Trey. They have DeMar and Trey. So, okay, but you know what, fans? You're right. You've picked an excellent team.
I was wrong with that because I had LaMelo starting, and you and I had this conversation.
You did have LaMelo. That's right. Yes.
I had LaMelo starting over Trey, so I was wrong with that. I still think he's going to make the All-Star team.
Yeah, he's fifth. He's fifth in voting, and I think he makes it. Like it's DeMar, Trey, Zach, James Harden, and LaMelo.
Yep. So I had him start. I had LaMelo starting in the All-Star game, but I was wrong about that, which is fine because it's still a really good team. It's still a really good starting five. So I got no problem with that. But at the end, Tone, what I'd like to do is I'd like to keep the fans involved. I don't want to diminish being an all-star. I don't want to do that. I just don't hold it in as a high regard. And at some point, we're going to talk about this again, about how Tone thinks that the All-NBA and the All-League Defender team is a crock.
We're going to talk about that next week.
Yes, sir.
So just for the record, for this week, what I've said is that the Hall of Fame's a joke. All-Star voting's a joke. And all the overtime rules need to change. Yeah, just minor things. I think I just need to revamp all the sports. Just send me a list. I'll work it out. I'll work it out and send you.
All right. Clock, change the dimensions on the court. Let's get rid of all of that stuff.
Now we're going to go to a game that I don't want to change anything right now except for their overtime rules. But people want to know who's going to make it to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So we need to talk about it. We're going to start in the AFC. Because your team, congratulations, because your team's still in it. So I'm going to save that for last. You've got the Cincinnati Bengals, who beat the Chiefs earlier in the season, 34-31. They kept Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce in check, traveling to Kansas City to play the Chiefs, who are a different team than we saw like week 8, week 9, when we didn't think they were going to be making the playoffs.
Not the same team.
Much different team right now. Ingram started to show a little. I know Chris Jones is really probably their best defensive player, but we got to see about the Honey Badger there, Matthew, see if he's still going to be playing. I think he was out with a concussion. But Ingram too is starting to pay some dividends for the Chiefs defense as well. Kind of tell me what are your thoughts, Chiefs and Bengals?
I'll tell you what, Tone. When we saw them in week 8, week 9, and you and I had this conversation, I was not sold on Kansas City. I was not sold on Kansas City making the playoffs. I thought they were out. I think they were 3-5 at that point, 4 and something like that. And I'm looking at the division that they were in, and the fact that not only going up and down, they looked like they were going the other way. Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing great. Travis Kelce was just that offense was sputtering.
A lot of turnovers,
and that defense was completely and utterly whacked, to say the least. So I didn't think that they were going in there. What happened was that they turned around that offense. And in addition to turning around that offense, the defense turned around. Honey Badger got better, right? Sorensen started playing better. That D-line got way better than what I thought that they were going to be. And they just went on a run. And I was really surprised about what they did just in the division alone. And you know this better than I do, Tone. In the playoffs, not just in the playoffs, just at the end of the regular season, if you get hot and you get in the playoffs, anything could happen. So I'm looking at this group, and I'm looking at how Kansas City is rolling, and I don't like I don't like it one bit, Tone, how they're protecting Joe Burrow.
You mean not protecting Joe Burrow?
Let me rephrase that. How they're not protecting Joe Burrow. We're talking about a guy who he ended up on his back officially 9 times. He got knocked down like 12 or 13 times. Let's make sure we play on that. He got knocked down like 12 or 13 times. And that pass rush for Kansas City is so much better than what it was when they saw them in week 8. And I think that that's going to be the difference in the game, because what they're going to do is I think they can force Joe Burrow, who I love, by the way, and who I love Cincinnati. And I think that they're one of the best young teams. But I think that with that pass rush, they can force Joe Burrow into a lot more mistakes than Tennessee was doing.
So you're obviously then picking the Chiefs to win this one.
I think that the Chiefs win.
I think it's a really safe pick to pick the Chiefs. They've been the best team in the AFC. Now this is their 3rd year. They've been to 2 straight Super Bowls. This is their 4th straight AFC championship game, which, by the way, I keep telling everybody to pump the brakes on putting Patrick Mahomes into the top 5 quarterbacks all time. I keep telling them to pump the brakes on that. But I got to tell you, in 5 years and 4 as a starter, to put up 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, 4,000 yards, 37 touchdowns, go to the AFC championship all 4 years as a starter, man, he's well on his way. He's well on his way.
Hence the tone. Hence the term tone on his way.
On his way. Oh, that's why I used it. That's why I used it.
On his way.
Yeah. He's well on his way. So that it might be the best start. And this is why people get fooled, right? It's the best start, the Eddie quarterback ever.
Mhm.
Yeah. But guess what? I learned this. There's this great line. Do you remember that movie Roadhouse? Patrick Swayze, I forget, Sam Elliott. I grew my hair because of Sam Elliott, just so you know, because in that movie, he like puts it up right before he's about to fight. So there's this great line: Sam Elliott and Patrick Swayze, and I forget the girl's name, but the doctor. They're sitting at a diner, and they've been up all night. Right, they were at the bar. Now they're at this diner, this all 24-hour diner, and they're sitting there and they're eating breakfast. Patrick Swayze's sitting kind of in the chair, and Sam Elliott is dancing with the girl, and Patrick Swayze stretches and yawns, right? And he goes, "Yep, he's good out of the gate. Not much for stamina." It's really good if you come out the gate fast, but you got to finish strong too. So we still got to see the finish, but in terms of coming out of the starting blocks, yeah, he might not be anybody better.
Tone, let me say that I think that they're going to force Joe Burrow into a lot of mistakes, and I think that pass rush could cause a lot of problems for Joe Burrow. However, I've been rolling with Cincinnati all
You're changing your pick?
I've been rolling with Cincinnati all year, and I'm not getting off the bandwagon now. I'm not. Cincinnati's going to the bowl game.
But
Cincinnati is going to the bowl game, Tone. I've been with them since we first started doing this. I've been rolling with them.
All right. You didn't let me make my bowl. You stole my thunder. So you know what then? Then I'm going to take the safe pick.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with the team. I was telling you all the things they did right, and then I was going to tell you what they did wrong. I was going to pick the Bengals. But since you picked the Bengals, you're going to be wrong. I'm going to get them right this time. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to go with what's going to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
And they're going to be playing one of these two teams. Either your San Francisco 49ers or they're my Los Angeles Rams now, because one, I lived in LA and I'm jumping on that bandwagon because I've been knocking Matthew Stafford for 13 years. I've been telling you, he's horrible. So you know what? He's proved me wrong. I'm with Matthew Stafford. Where's the camera, Matthew? I'm sorry that I ever doubted you, my man. You, Sean McVay, Cooper Kupp, OBJ.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the same dude right here that we talking to. This is the same dude that's been telling me for months, the girl that I'm dating, she ain't for you. Now, all of a sudden, he wants to take us out to dinner. That's what he wants to do now.
No. More realistic is I've been telling you that she's no good for you. She's a cheater, and you break up with her, and now I'm going to date her.
What? How terrible is that? Absolutely terrible. Can you believe this guy over here, right? Can you believe him? Now, let me make my case why I'm going to take the Rams. Why I'm going to take the Rams. I'm going to take the Rams because, one, I feel like Tampa Bay set this really cool precedent last year by hosting a Super Bowl. And I think LA's I think we're going to see a trend. I think we're going to see more teams kind of, when they're hosting the Super Bowl, kind of use that as motivation to get there. Yeah. I think their defense is really strong. Obviously, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, although Jalen Ramsey, every time I bring up Jalen Ramsey, everyone wants to bring up, well, Mike Evans scored a touchdown on him. Yeah, of course he did. Just like any sport, when you're great, and Mike Evans is great, please don't get that confused. You're going to score. You're going to get beat at some point. That's just reality. So I think their defense is strong. I think Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, and I'll say this again, Sean McVay has put Matthew Stafford in a position where he doesn't have to take too many big chances. Mm-hmm. And I think that OBJ and Cooper Kupp are playing the best football that we might ever see them play. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they're getting even a little bit of a running game, which helps those play action and keep the defense honest. I think it's a lot for San Francisco. San Francisco has been inconsistent this year. We said we didn't want to see them in the playoffs, and it's proof. I asked the Packers and what was their first round matchup? I forget, but who they play in the first round? Who they play in the wild card? San Francisco, Dallas. Asked Dallas and Green Bay, right? You didn't want to meet San Francisco in the playoffs. I just think when I compare quarterbacks, I got Stafford over Garoppolo. When I compare defenses, I got the Rams
over the 49ers by a hair. So that's why I'm leaning to that side a little bit.
Mhm.
I know you're picking the 49ers, obviously. Tell us why you're picking the 49ers.
Matthew Stafford, for that reason and that reason only. Matthew Stafford, and you trying to sell me Matthew Stafford and the idea that, and it's actually believable.
He's played well. Last game especially, 380 something yards, no interceptions.
Just so you know, folks, he's actually doing a really good job at selling it, only except he gave me the pen. He put the contract in front of me. I'm not signing it. And the reason why I'm not signing it, I thought Sean McVay, who's a rah-rah guy, I thought he did a really good job of putting Matthew Stafford in positions where he can be successful. 38 passes. I got no problem with him throwing the ball 38 times. The difference in that game was turnovers. They did everything that they could to give the ball back.
Yeah, they did.
And the game back to Tampa Bay. Now, I think that the 49ers defense is better than Tampa Bay's defense, which means that those mistakes that they made, I think that the 49ers can I think that the 49ers can cause even more crucial mistakes for Tampa.
Can I ask you a question on that? Because I don't disagree with that. I think the San Francisco 49ers defense is better than the Bucs. However, do you think a Garoppolo-led offense could take advantage of those mistakes as well as a Tom Brady-led offense can?
Absolutely, I do. And the reason why I feel like this is because I feel like what Shanahan does, I want you to remember, Tone, 2 years ago in the NFC Championship game against Green Bay, Garoppolo only threw the ball, counted, Tone, 8 times. That was it. 8 times. And Shanahan is one of those guys who, whatever is working, this is what we're doing. We're not going to go away from what's not. We're not going to go away from what's working. And I look at that pass rush for the Rams. I think that they're going to get worn out. And why are they going to get worn out? Because I think that the 49ers are going to hold on to the ball longer. And if you hold on to the ball longer and you keep the defense on the field longer, you wear them down. So once you get into the meat and potatoes of the game, the middle of the third quarter, late in the third quarter, early in the fourth, you start to see that pass rush start to slow down. And when I see Aaron Donald, who's been the most neutralized against the 49ers as he's been against any other team this season, he's been neutralized the most against the 49ers. I think that they've done a really good job against him. I mean, and Tony, I did hear a lot about, Jalen Ramsey. He gave up that touchdown to Mike Evans. Just so you know, before he gave up that touchdown, Mike Evans was 7 catches for like 47 yards. They had him pretty bottled up. He wasn't really doing much. He gave up that big play. I think that was for 55 yards. But up until that point,
they
had him pretty bottled up. So with that being said, I think that the 49ers caused more turnovers and they put Matthew Stafford in more precarious situations to make him make more mistakes. And I think because
he hasn't thrown an interception the whole playoffs.
There we go, Toad.
Even though he led the league in interceptions this year, people forget that in the season he led the league in interception. He hasn't thrown one. Is this where he catches up?
If I'm not mistaken, Tom just said to me, "I'm telling you, she's really nice. She's terrible." And then he stopped.
Listen,
Matthew Stafford,
listen, just because she's not right for you doesn't mean she's not right for me.
Matthew Stafford. I'm telling you know who I am? I'm what you call it. You ever seen the movie Warriors where Warriors?
Yeah. Come out and play.
That's who Matthew Stafford is. Hey, Matt, we looking for you. Where are you? Because he's coming, Tone. He's coming. Just
it is. Listen, there's always 2 scenarios. It's, hey, they've turned a corner and they do one thing, or it's they're gonna get their revenge. It'll even out. There
he is. Yeah. So just give it a minute. We know who Matthew Stafford
is. So you're thinking 3 games, 0 interceptions, or 3 games, 0, 2 interceptions, 0. Sorry, 2 games, 0 interceptions. This is the one where he throws 5, so that his average still is like 1.7 per.
I won't go to 5, Tony.
Okay, not 5. Okay.
But what I will say is, Matthew, where are you? Because we know you're in there. Come on out, brother.
All right, so you've got a 49ers Bengals Super Bowl. I got a Rams and Chiefs Super Bowl. But I'll say this, and I don't always say this. I would be excited to watch Rams Chiefs, Rams Bengals, 49ers Chiefs, 49ers Bengals. I think all scenarios are good games. And that's rare. Normally you're like, oh, I don't want to see those two. Like, I don't want to see those 2 teams play. But I think everyone has a really interesting dynamic to the matchup. So we'll see. All right. Now it's time for mail. All right, here we go. I'm going to rapid fire some questions. Let's go through them. We've got some NBA. We've got some NFL. We're going to start. Well, I like always starting with these, with the fire them questions. Should Quinn Snyder get fired?
Tone, I think so. And the reason why I think so is not because he's not a bad coach. I feel like when I look at Quinn Snyder, I rewind the clock and I go back to Doug Collins with the Bulls. And he took them to the Eastern Conference Championship in '89. This is as far as we're going with Doug Collins. As good as Doug Collins is, we're not going any further with Doug Collins. With the system that we have, this isn't going to work. Bring in Phil Jackson, virtually with the same unit, they win the NBA championship 2 years later. Fast forward the clock to 1999. The Los Angeles Lakers have Dale Harris. That core is still there. Shaq, Kobe, Robert Horry, Derek Fisher, Glenn Rice. That core is there. We've gone as far as we're going to go with Dale Harris. Enter Phil Jackson. They win the NBA championship. I feel like we're the same. I feel like we're in the same position with Quinn Snyder. I watched him last year in the playoffs, and I watched the little adjustments that he didn't make. So, for example, when they were going, when the Clippers were going 5 out, and to have Rudy Gobert having to cover 22, 23 feet away from the basket, that's a coaching issue. I mean, that's a coaching adjustment that needs to be made. Get Rudy off the floor.
Because everybody said he was exposed, but
right. Get Rudy off the floor and get somebody. That's a coaching adjustment that needs to be made. I think that they've gone as far as they're going to go with him, Tone, and I think that a change needs to be made at the top.
And do you think that there's someone that they could bring in? Let's say they fire him today. You think there's a coach they could bring in that changes Utah's outlook for the rest of the season, or is this something they should wait to the offseason and do? Because listen, I don't know if you remember this. 2 weeks ago, I said Ja coming back now looks really good for Memphis. They might be going up into that 4th seed. I said, oh, they might even be able to catch Utah for the 3 seed. And you said, no, I don't think they're going to catch Utah. They jumped right over Utah like they were standing still.
Right, absolutely. I don't think that.
Do you think a coaching change? I guess the question is, do you think a coaching change changes the outcome of this season?
I do, Tone, because I'm looking at. I don't want to waste another season. I mean, last year they were the number 1 seed, right? And not only were they the number 1 seed, I mean, they got bounced in 6 games against the Clippers. To bring in another guy who I think is perfect, not perfect, but to bring in another guy,
nobody's perfect.
I don't think anybody's perfect, but to bring in another guy to just change the mindset, not just defensively.
Like a different voice,
just a different voice and a different system to bring in to set these guys in a different direction, I think would help. I really think that it would
50
help.
games in. There's only 32 games left. And that's what, if it were to happen today, is that enough time to bring in a new system?
I mean,
that's my only concern.
If I'm not mistaken, let's see. So you said 50 games. So in 2015, the 14-15 season, 41 games into the season, the Cavs let go of Blatt and brought in Ty Lue. So we right around that. They were 30 and 11 when they brought in Blatt. And
that team, I feel like that team had a player that was really good.
They did. He the real James, I think his name is.
Something James. James.
James.
Who was kind of coaching that team. Really, let's be honest. This isn't no offense. Utah's not that team.
No, they're not.
So yeah, 30 games would be tough. I see what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I do. But that's something where it's after last season, what I saw in the playoffs, 20 games in, and I'm seeing the same. I'm like, okay, now I'm making a change. I think at 50 games, I think it's too late. But then maybe the thought process is, so now I'm going to flip over to your side. Well, the way things are going, we're going to be facing Dallas in the first round.
Who we could beat.
Right?
I think we could
Well, the way we're playing, I'm not too sure.
Right.
If I do make it out of that, man, then I got Phoenix. I'm probably not getting by that. And then I got Golden State or Memphis. Like the matchups just don't seem. So maybe it is, hey, let's take a chance because I don't think I'm getting out of the first or second round anyways. So maybe that's the philosophy, and it's, hey, I'll get these guys, some experience with this new coach, and then they can see what the plan is, have a full off season together, and that coach also gets to see them play in the playoffs and say, okay, here's some of the players I think we should move on from because what I saw from them doesn't jive with the way that I want to coach. So maybe that is all right. All right, maybe Quinn Snyder. Sorry, Quinn. We're gonna stick. Let's stick to the NBA. I'm gonna skip this one, and I'm gonna go to this one because it's a better question. The NBA MVP. We're hearing the usual suspects, although one of them is hurt now. But we're hearing, the Kevin Durant's, the Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, all forwards in the East, by the way. Joker, yeah, Curry. Curry's the talk about Curry has dropped off because he hasn't been playing well as of late. Mm-hmm. So the question, I guess I should ask the question: who should we be looking at as NBA MVP right now that we're not?
Well, before I even answer that question of who we should be looking at, let's eliminate some people, Tone. So I think Ja's out. Well, wait a minute. He had 41 last. He had 41 last 2 nights ago. So why are we eliminating him? Well, he did miss 11 games. So that's almost a month before the season started, when the season started. In the process of him missing 11 games, Tone, they went 9-11 when he was out. So
they won 9 of 11.
Yeah, they didn't go 9.
Yeah, they went 9-2. 9-2.
They won 9 of 11 games. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry. They won 9 of 11 games when he was out the lineup. That doesn't help your case. Your team is winning when you're out the lineup. In fact, that's what sunk Embiid last year when he missed 10 games. Not only did he miss 10 games, they won 7 of the 10. He was out the lineup. Otherwise, he wins the league MVP. So I think Ja's out. As good as Ja's been playing and as good as Memphis has been, that's a damn good team. But they're really good out the lineup. So I think Ja's out. That's number one. Number two, Embiid, as great as Embiid, we're talking about a guy 13 out of 14 games. He's had 30 again. He's had 30, and I think he's averaging 30 and 10 over the last 20 games or something like that. That's great. Problem is they're in 5th place in the Eastern Conference. All right. And with them being in 5th place, what is the criteria, Tone, for
okay. Yeah, at minimum, you have to have home court advantage in the first round. At minimum.
You have to be hosting a playoff series. You have to be, and they're not. Now, does that mean that Joel is out? No, I don't think he's out, but he's not very high in the conversation. As great as he's been playing. That's the same idea with Joker. Same idea with Joker. As good as Joker's been playing, he might be the most skilled big man in the game. But as good as he's playing, I think Denver's number 6 in the West. And if you were to vote Joel Embiid or Joker, what you're doing is you're setting a precedent that now can't be turned back. Because you did the same thing with Russ when he won the league MVP, right? So with that being said,
let me just say, because people bring up like Ja's stats compared to the Derrick Rose stats, and yeah, they're similar to Derrick Rose, but that year Derrick Rose had that Bulls team. Let's be honest, that was not a great Bulls team without him. They were the number 1 seed. They were number 1 seed. So and I also say you can't compare it to other years because, yeah, it was similar to Derrick Rose's stats, but when you look at the players this year, he's competing against for the MVP, where there's a number of players that have better stats. So I just want to bring that part up. Yes, but go ahead. I think not Utah. Excuse me, Dallas. Oh my goodness, Denver. Denver is the 6th seed. Yes, you were. I was going to go through every team in the West till I got to them.
What you do, Tone, is when you set that precedent, you do the same thing that you did with Russ. So now we got to do every year, and now we changing the criteria. And I'm not sure if you want to do that.
Yeah, so I don't want to go down that path.
KD is out. Why is KD out? KD's going to miss 2 months. So the KD missing 2 months, he's out.
He's out.
So I think the league MVP is Giannis's league MVP to lose. DeMar DeRozan is out too because Chicago has lost 7 of their last 10. They're decimated by injuries, and they're going the other way. I still think that they're going to be hosting the playoff series when they get everybody back in the lineup, but they're going the other way. So I think this is Giannis's league MVP to lose.
3 out of 4 years, Giannis. That would be impressive. Be very impressive. But I think it's interesting they're the defending champs, and I know we're talking MVP, but I feel like they're gonna they're in my opinion, they're almost like a sneaky pick to repeat.
Can you believe that, Tom?
Because people they're not really talking about the Bucks, and they're just doing their business. They're just going about because they had that slow start because of injuries, and everyone just kind of forgot about them. Who's in better position to win? Right?
Their game at first place in the East. 1 game.
Who's in a better position to win than probably the league MVP, who happen to be the defending champs, who have everybody except PJ Tucker kind of back. I think people are forgetting about that. So who aren't we talking about though in the MVP race that we probably should be in the conversation?
Who should we be talking
Yeah,
about? Right
like should we be talking about Chris Paul? Should we be talking
Yes,
about
absolutely. We should be talking about Chris Paul, and that's
Donovan
not.
Mitchell? I don't know.
I'm not going to say Donovan Mitchell. I'm absolutely going to say Chris Paul. Okay, first of all, Tone. Last night they won. I think they just won their second 8 straight. This is their second 8 straight. They got an 18-game winning streak, and then yesterday they're now on an 8-game winning streak. So we're not even talking about how Phoenix is rolling with DeAndre Ayton out the lineup. And the reason why they're rolling primarily is because of Chris Paul. He leads the league in assists. He's second in the league, I think, in steals. And the fact that we're not talking about him in the MVP race nearly as much, I completely left him out. And we should absolutely be talking about him more. And I apologize for that. Absolutely, we should be talking about Chris Paul more in the league MVP race, no doubt.
It's so funny because Chris Paul almost like overnight went from, in my opinion, one of the most overrated point guards ever. Because when you're calling him, and when I say overrated, let's be clear, I had him, I think, number 11 all time, 12, something like that. And people were calling him the point god. He's a top 3. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's not there yet. So he's overrated. He's almost shifted now to underrated because he's taken this Phoenix team and he's moved into my top 10 because of what he's done over the last year and a half and taking the team to the finals, been an MVP caliber player. And now we're not talking about him anymore. I'm like, guys, you were talking too much about him in the beginning. And now when you should be talking about him, you've forgotten about him because you're seeing these other dynamic players. And we fall in love with, Ja going up to the top of the backboard with 2 hands and blocking it. Phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But let's be clear. If it's not for Chris Paul, where's Phoenix?
Phoenix is the middle of the road to a bottom playoff team. And let me ask you this question, Tone. I'm glad you brought up Chris Paul. In 2018, when he gets hurt in the Western Conference Finals in Game 6, after that series, how do you feel? And by the way, he had just signed an extension for like 160. How did you feel about Chris Paul?
I thought he's really good regular season player. Always seems to get hurt in the playoffs, so I can't trust him. That's I have my trust issues. I can't trust him, and that's why I had him ranked there because people want to rank players based on their skill, right? Like the question I skipped was, is Kyrie Irving a top 10 point guard all time? And I skipped it. I'm going to save it for the next show, so we will get to it. But people confuse skill with production. And I keep having this argument. I don't care how skilled you are. I don't care because what matters is if you produce. And I always make it about team. And people say you can't do that comparison. I said I can because it's the best way to do it. Just because you have the best team on paper, if you don't win games, who cares? So just because you have, as you call it, a bag, if you can't relate that to production on the court, then I don't care that you have a bag. Because guess what? There's been great players who only do one thing. Kevin Durant is a scorer. We talked about this last show. All he does is score, and you want to make him top 10, but he only does one thing. So do you care about his bag or do you care about how he produces? Oh, I care about how he produces. So we keep people flip-flop depending on what argument they want to make. All right. We have one more question. So let's get to it because we're running out of time. Mm-hmm. We might have to go 5 days a week, without this. Jay doesn't pay me enough to go 5 days a week, just so you know. All right. What would a Super Bowl mean for OBJ? Odell Beckham Jr.
I think that it would validate him because when he got to Cleveland, he was one of the best. I think before he got to Cleveland, the year before he got to Cleveland, he was on pace with Jerry Rice. He had more yards and more receptions than Jerry Rice at that time.
Yeah.
So he was basically how we talk about Jamar Chase. That's how we was talking about OBJ, right? So he gets to Cleveland and he goes the other way. So now the idea is, he's not really that good. Maybe we were wrong about him, only except maybe we weren't. So he gets with a better quarterback and we see what he's doing. And for him to win it, it would just validate the idea that maybe he was what we thought he was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and he just got himself into a better situation.
That's great. What you said was beautiful. It's eloquent. But you know what it's going to mean for him, really? Really, what it's going to mean? A bag of cash. That's what it's going to mean for him. Because if he wins a Super Bowl, that kind of, Antonio Brown complained about the prove it contract.
Mhm.
He goes to a Super Bowl and plays well. We always have to have that caveat, right? That if he drops 4 passes for 0 yards, and he's been playing well. So he goes to a Super Bowl and wins, and he plays well. Actually, even if he loses and he plays if he's 8 catches for $120 and 2 touchdowns, someone's backing up a Brinks truck for him.
Whatever you want.
Right? Not even. He goes for 6 catches and 70 yards and a touchdown, right? But he's because he's been a difference maker. He has been a difference maker. They're going to back up that truck full of cash. That's what it means for him. Because I don't know. For me, legacy is important. I get it. I'll take the contract.
The Giants are going to call him back. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. Think about the interesting thing about because we blame Odell. We blamed Odell ever since he was on that boat. The Giants haven't won any games. Oh, then he goes to Cleveland. It's not Baker's fault. It's OBJ's fault. He's got a bad attitude. What did I say? I told you it's Butter. I told you it's Butter's fault. It's Butter's fault. Sorry. And now he goes to LA. Oh, look at this. Oh, he remembered how to catch passes.
Kind of always.
No, he didn't remember how to catch passes. They started throwing him the ball where he could catch the ball. So yeah, I think all those things you said were great and true. And I'm sorry, I'm poking fun at it a little bit, but right, the reality is what it means is a bag of cash, and well deserved.
A huge bag of cash.
Well deserved. All right, so that's it. We're not moving to 5 days a week, not yet, anyways. But you got Wednesdays, Fridays on YouTube. You can find it at Sports Fluent. You're here. Just subscribe and hit the like button. You've made it this far, so do that. If you want to listen in your car when you're working out, all those types of things, we're exclusively Fluent and Chill on Spotify. You can find us. But until what did we do next? Monday, 8 p.m. live on TikTok. Until then,
take it light. Take it.